high, sun-baked plain lying at the foot of towering mountains. Geologists tell us that millions of years ago it was the bottom of an ancient sea. Yet today, it's a waterless wasteland across which a modern highway threads its way from the lush coastal valleys of California to an equally lush oasis in this barrenness. Palm Springs, California, where Blessing and I spent our Christmas holidays. A modern little winter resort city that came to be known as the playground of the stars. It seems incredible that a little more than 30 years ago, this tiny village had few accommodations for visitors. Today, there are more than 300 hotels, luxurious to modest, to meet the requirements of the 250,000 winter sun worshippers who visit Palm Springs each season. These fine hotels are one of the principal reasons for Palm Springs becoming a leading convention city of the West. Between Columbus Day and Easter, hardly a week passes without some convention of businessmen or civic leaders meeting in America's desert oasis. We chose the Desert Inn for our stay, mostly because it is the outgrowth of the first real guest house in Palm Springs, and we thought it would be a good place to learn the history of the town. So after checking in, we went to the Pool Terrace for lunch and to plan a sightseeing drive. Blessing made friends with Gino, who lives in Palm Springs, and she showed us where to drive to see most of the town. You can see how well planned and attractive the little city is. Each turn of the road showed us either a beautiful home or a well-designed building. Several trailer parks have been built recently, one owned by Bing Crosby, and luxurious homes on wheels are a common sight in Palm Springs today. And then as we passed one home, we spotted a familiar face. Hoagie Carmichael, off to the golf course with his son and a neighbor lad. Nearly every denomination and faith has its church, although the permanent population of Palm Springs is only about 10,000. And a modern school system serves 2,500 children, from kindergarten through high school. And the newly built baseball park is used by a major team for spring training. Back in the early days of private flying, Palm Springs built a small landing strip on the edge of town. Gradually, this grew into a modern airport, and in 1945, Western Airlines inaugurated daily commercial airline service to this winter playground. A short way from the village, the desert sands still drip with the wind. Palm Springs is truly an oasis, made possible by the vision of Judge McCallum and his early exploits in irrigation canals. Far from being stark and forbidding, today the desert offers breathtaking scenery, beauty which every tourist tries to capture in his camera, just as we did, before we turned back to the inn to rest for a famous breakfast ride next morning. When visitors look at the modern buildings of Palm Springs, they forget that it is still a part of the West, the land of ranches and horses. And the spirit of the Old West lives on, with everyone enjoying an occasional trip in the saddle to one of the cool, picturesque canyons in the mountains behind the village, like famous Palm Canyon, with its grove of Washingtonia palms indigenous to this area, or up a sagebrush-lined trail to Andreas Canyon and a chuck wagon breakfast by a mountain stream. There's something about bacon and eggs cooked out of doors that tastes different, and the crisp, clean air gives you a cowhand's appetite. Then, after the food, the guitars come out, and the old ballads from the ranges tell the story in song of the exploits of early pioneers who fought to build the Great West, to make it a part of America. Breakfast over, everyone chips in with the cleaning up. And then it's back to the saddle and the ride down the canyon trail to town. As the rhythmic clop of the horse's hooves kicks up the dust of the trail home, just one thought comes to your mind: a swim. Water in irrigation ditches made an oasis of Palm Springs. And today, water also serves for recreation. Swimming pools are everywhere. Probably 1 out of every 3 homes has its own private pool, and the tiled patio beside the pool becomes the family living room. When you look down on the village from the air, the shining blue pools seem to be everywhere, and well they should. There are almost 1,000 of them here, both private and public. More pools for the number of residents than anywhere else in the world. And all of the scenery in Palm Springs is not in the mountains and desert. We had gone to the famous Palm Springs Tennis Club for a swim in what is often called the most photographed swimming pool in the world. Hearty chuck wagon breakfast doesn't satisfy you long in the desert air. So after one last cooling dip in the tennis club pool, we're off to Charles Farrell's Racket Club to watch one of Palm Springs' most popular sports, and to meet Gino, who had suggested we lunch at her favorite sidewalk cafe. The Racket Club would be an autograph hunter's paradise. So many stars play on the courts here, but in Palm Springs, autograph hunting seems forgotten. This is home to many of the stars, and they're just plain folks along with their neighbors. So whether you spot William Powell and Charlie Farrell in a fast match at the club, or pass Eddie Cantor out for a morning walk on the street, you probably just smile, say howdy, and walk on. Yes, tennis is a popular sport at Palm Springs, and they start the game young here. It was pleasant walking down Palm Canyon Drive in the sun, and nicer still to sit in the sun having lunch and watch the passers-by. And here, too, we found a new experience. A flock of sparrows who perch in nearby trees watching sharp-eyed for crumbs, which disappear in a hurry once they're dropped. And soon Gino spotted friends and introduced us to Ralph Kiner, the home run king of the big leagues, and his wife, Nancy Chafee, championship women's tennis player. When Ralph invited me to play golf with him, we left the ladies to a spree of window shopping and headed for Thunderbird Country Club. The newcomer to Palm Springs is invariably surprised at the shopping center, as modern and beautiful as any in the country. Here you find branches of some of the most famous stores in America, as well as unique and exotic little specialty shops of all kinds. This patio is called the Center, a shopping center you could find only in Palm Springs. And this is Thunderbird, one of the outstanding golf clubs of America. I played my usual game, mostly in the rough, but on this course it was a pleasure to be in the rough. And if I was surprised when Ralph Kiner asked me to golf with him, I was more so when we were joined on the first tee by Phil Harris. Need I tell you they're both par golfers? Or that I'm not? There are 4 beautiful golf courses in the Palm Springs area, which might be the reason it is becoming the winter golf capital of America, and probably one reason the president chooses Palm Springs for his winter vacation. And on the links, as everywhere else, you frequently run into well-known faces, like Gummo, one of the famous 4 Marx brothers. Yes, playing Thunderbird was a pleasure, but I was certainly no match for Phil Harris or for Ralph Kiner and his putter. But if I wound up with a poor score, I also wound up looking forward to a charcoal broiled dinner at one of the many top-notch restaurant nightclubs in Palm Springs. It's difficult to choose a place for dinner. They're all so exceptional, and several of them have shows featuring top-ranking stars. But when we spotted Louis Armstrong's name on the Chi-Chi marquee, that was it. Old Satchmo has become a living legend. A poor lad from the other side of the tracks in New Orleans, Louis Armstrong is the most respected performer in the jazz world today. Every member of his troupe is a top artist, like Thelma Middleton, his song stylist. Yes, Louis Armstrong and his company are star performers. Yet here they were in this tiny desert oasis. And down the street in the Dollhouse or another club, equally great stars entertain nightly throughout the season. Early next morning, we started out on a drive to the Date Groves, stopping outside of town to hike up rugged Tockwitz Canyon. In the warmth of the desert sun, it was hard to remember that we were spending Christmas in Palm Springs. Tockwitz Canyon is named for the evil spirit of the Cahuilla Indians, the tribe which has lived in this area for centuries. Legend has it that this huge cliff casts a shadow on the desert floor which exactly resembles Takwitz, the evil spirit. So the canyon got its superstitious name. Though the canyon is wild and rocky and rugged, it is truly beautiful, with a clear mountain stream cascading through the rocks, pausing in its rush now and then in cool, shadowy pools. We found it hard to believe we were but a few hundred yards from the desert's edge, just 2 miles from the village center. But we were on our way to learn about dates, so once again, we sent our Plymouth skimming across the desert. This vast expanse of parched land was considered useless before Judge McCallum built his 19-mile ditch across the desert to bring water to his groves in Palm Valley. And it was Judge McCallum who, in 1890, suggested to the Department of Agriculture that these lands would be ideal for raising dates. The department sent explorers to the date gardens of the Old World, where the Arabs had cultivated dates for many centuries. Because date palms cannot be grown from seed, offshoots had to be brought back from the ancient kingdom of Babylon, now known as Iraq, and planted in the Coachella Valley. Others came from Tunisia and Algeria, and today over 4,000 acres near Palm Springs are growing dates. From one of the growers, we learned that there are both male and female trees, that nature provided no means for pollinating the female tree. 49 female trees and 1 male are planted on each acre, and the pollen is transferred by hand, sometimes with a bellows. As the dates start to mature, each bunch, weighing about 20 pounds, is protected from dust, rain, and insects by the paper umbrellas. And then, seeing snow-capped Mount San Jacinto through the grove, we remembered the Palms to Pines highway out of town. So changing to warmer clothes, we drove up the mountain for an afternoon in a winter fairyland, just a short distance from the desert as the crow flies, and an hour's drive by car. There's something about a snowdrift that makes you feel young again. That is, if you've driven to it from the sunny warmth of the desert and can leave it behind when you wish.